A popular reporter vanishes without a trace. Police suspect she has merely run away, but the details don't add up. Was she killed by a jealous lover? Abducted by foreign agents? Forced into slavery against her will? The further police delved into her case, the less things made sense. What really happened to Tsujide Noriko? Tsujide Noriko was a popular magazine reporter from Ise City in Mie Prefecture. She was hardworking, dedicated to her job, and travelled not only around Japan, but all around the world for it. On November 24th, 1998, the day after she'd returned from a trip to Thailand, and only 2 weeks after her 24th birthday, Tsujide stayed late at the office to wrap up some work. She exited the building around 11 PM and was never seen again. What happened to this beloved, hard-working reporter? The following morning, Tsujide's car was discovered in the parking lot of an insurance company inside the city. It was locked and showed no signs of disarray. It was as though she had parked it, stepped out, and then never returned. Neither her bag nor car keys were inside, indicating that she, or someone else, had taken them with her. Suspicions grew when police discovered cigarette butts inside the car. Tsujide didn't smoke, and the driver's seat had been pushed back too far for a woman of her height to comfortably drive. Yet despite this, police initially treated the case as a simple runaway. Tsujide, 24 at the time, lived with her parents, a not all too uncommon arrangement, even with young working women. And despite her parents' protests and fears that their daughter was in danger, the police initially believed that she had disappeared of her own free will. It wasn't until December of that same year that police realized there may have been more to the case than meets the eye, and it was only then that they officially opened an investigation into her disappearance. A person of interest soon rose to the top of the suspect list. A man known only as X, who had worked with Tsujide on several articles over the years. They knew each other well enough that they occasionally went out to eat together. On the day of her disappearance, X had called Tsujide 4 separate times. When police questioned him, he admitted that he had met with her after she left the office at 11 PM. Apparently, they had had a misunderstanding about an article that she was working on, and he wanted to apologize to her in person. He picked her up from where the police found her parked car. They spoke for a few hours, and then he dropped her off along a highway a short distance away. He claimed that was the last he saw of her. Police didn't believe him, however, and upon further questioning, he admitted that they had actually slept together before he dropped her off. Tsujide was in a serious relationship with another man at the time, and had never once showed signs of infidelity, nor did she seem the type to cheat, so police grew even more suspicious. They continued investigating X and soon discovered that he had kept a sex worker confined against her will 1 year prior, so they swept in and arrested him. They hoped more intense questioning would lead to the man admitting his part in Tsujide's disappearance, but on the advice of his lawyer, X clammed up and said nothing. At his trial for the confinement, X was found not guilty, and as the police were unable to extract any further information about Tsujide from him, they were unable to arrest him on that charge either. In an interesting turn of events, X then sued the police and prefecture for his arrest, before dropping the case entirely a few days later without word. He never said anything about why he dropped the case, or why he even started it to begin with. Although police continued to suspect him in Tsujide's disappearance, investigations were unable to dig up anything connecting him to it, and so they stopped pursuing him. With X apparently off the suspect list, the public began turning to other sources to explain her disappearance, and one of the most widely spread rumors claimed that she was kidnapped by North Korea. In 2008, 10 years after her disappearance, the Sankei newspaper ran an article stating that experts in Chinese and Korean relations claimed there was a high chance Noriko-san was kidnapped by North Korea. A special committee exists that investigates disappearances such as these to determine whether the victims may have been abducted or not, a problem that Japan has been dealing with for several decades. North Korea has admitted to only a few abductions over the years, but Japan claims they may have taken as many as 300 Japanese citizens. According to the article, investigators spoke with several defectors who claimed to have seen a woman who looked just like Tsujide in Pyongyang. As a result, the NGO that oversees potential North Korean abductees officially added her name to the list. But was she really abducted? Most victims taken by North Korea were young women, and they came from all over Japan. It is a possibility, of course, but without proof, we may never know. One more particularly outlandish theory also grew out of Tsujide's own reporting history. Although she often wrote bright and cheerful lifestyle articles, such as the best restaurants to visit and the best sightseeing locations around town, she had also been visiting women in Southeast Asia and Thailand, and investigating firsthand how they were smuggled into Japan. As mentioned earlier, she had just returned from a trip to Thailand the day before she disappeared. During her many trips abroad, it was believed that she had discovered many of these women were being smuggled into Watakano Island, an island in Mie Prefecture, also popularly known as Prostitution Island, for its long history of selling women. As the theory went, the organization running this trafficking ring discovered that she was investigating them, so they got to her first. They abducted her the night she went missing and smuggled her to Watakano Island herself, forcing her to work as one of the women she had spent so long investigating. Whether you believe this one depends on how deep you like your conspiracy theories to go, but other than her investigations into the trafficking of women from Southeast Asian countries into Japan, there was no evidence that any of it had to do with Watakano Island, let alone that she was abducted by shady organizations and forced to work there herself. Watakano is a small island with only 187 inhabitants as of July 2019, and it's located not very far from Ise. Considering the coverage Tsujide's disappearance made nationwide, one might imagine that if she was there, someone would have seen her by now. Yet, there have been more credible sightings of her in North Korea than in Watakano. The strangeness doesn't end there either. 3 days after she went missing, her parents received a phone call from a man who claimed to work for Kuroneko Yamato, a popular delivery company in Japan. This is Kuroneko Yamato Home Delivery Service. We have a package for Tsujide's younger sister. We'd like to hand this over to her in person, but we don't know where she lives. Please tell us her address. They used Tsujide's younger sister's name, which was never released to the public. No matter what angle you look at it from, the phone call was suspicious, and Tsujide's mother thought so as well. Rather than giving up her address, she asked the man on the line to give his number so that she could call them back instead. The man gave her a random 12-digit number that didn't exist. However, they soon realized that the final 4 numbers were exactly the same as the final 4 numbers of X's phone number. Coincidence, or perhaps something more? The strangeness continued when, several years after her disappearance, a woman on the television show TV no Chikara claimed that she had been visited by Tsujide's spirit. I was driving on the expressway in Ise one night when I noticed a young woman with black hair on the hood of my car. Several days later, she appeared in my house. Are you, by any chance, Tsujide Noriko? I asked her, and she nodded. Then In a feeble voice, she said, "I'm cold. My body is underwater. Please find me." A spirit medium on the same show claimed to see Tsujide's body in a pond. She had apparently been dumped after being murdered. The program searched the pond but came up empty-handed. They found nobody. Nothing. She wasn't there. It has now been more than 20 years since Tsujide disappeared. When questioned by a reporter familiar with her case, Tsujide's parents revealed that they believed their daughter to be dead. Their only wish was for her bones to be returned to them. They keep her car untouched in their garage, and the pain of her loss has never diminished. Was she killed by a man with a violent past, or perhaps abducted by North Korea or some other shady organization? Nobody knows, and the scariest part is, perhaps we never will. But what do you guys think about this one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.